Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What's happening, all my woods people? Sitting here in this October weather. Oh, wait, Casey, it's June, middle of June.
Middle of June.
What is happening,
I don't
dude?
know. We just saw a crappie bug a while ago. It was a weird thing.
Nuts, dude. I don't understand what's happening in this world right now. Like, normally, I remember a couple of years ago, like, we were getting 100-degree days in May.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what has happened, dude?
I don't know.
We haven't seen 95 yet, I don't think, have we?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah.
Like, we've broken 90, like, 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. We're probably going to pay for it later, but whatever.
Dude.
Honestly, like, there's these, like, arguments of climate change and this and that, and I'm not going to say we're not experiencing climate change, but is it okay to just not care?
I
know what I mean?
I'm in that same boat. I'm fun. It's funny you say that because we might have seen the same post recently, but I was thinking about kind of some of that as well. I'm just like, you know what? I just don't know. Like, I don't know if it's natural. I don't know if it's not. I'm just going to do what I do to be like, use less plastic and that kind of thing.
Well, just be sensible about stuff, right? So, like, hey, it's probably not a good idea to take 100 tires and burn them, right? Like, it's not going to be good for, like, it's not how God didn't make those tires for you to burn, right? So don't do that. Same thing with bottles, right? So, like, if you use 300 plastic water bottles a day, probably not good. Maybe if you got a big water bottle instead, it'd be better. Yeah. And then we can all just live happily.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of just like, hey, are we all conscious of it and trying to do a little better job every day? Personally, but then like on a like political spectrum, like I'm with you. Like I'm just disinvolved. You know what I mean? Like I can't get into it right now.
Yes.
Most anything political just fires me up like it does everybody else, and so I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to do my own thing and not tell other people what to do, and just try to be.
Well, Tyler, you walk outside from your humble abode here, and the sun's shining, breeze is moving through the trees, birds are chirping, and there's no politics. So why not just do that, instead, and your life goes on, right?
Yeah.
If you just, and I'm not saying just put your nose down and let whoever do whatever, but golly, getting too wrapped up in things is too much.
Right,
Sometimes it's okay to get wrapped up too much in things. One of those things is whitetail hunting.
Yes. Yeah, dude. I'm about to head on vacation, so we're going to probably make this intro short in a few days here, but I'm in the process of packing and
we're moving houses. So,
I'm basically just going through, fly selections more than anything and putting new fly lines on my reels and stuff. But, this whole thing that we're about to do is a pretty long trip, and like traveling is something that I've done for a long time, and I feel like I have my own system and I do well. But it's always good to get like the system from somebody else and see how they do it, And so today on the podcast, we have Tony Trietch, who is like under the radar, like super buck killer, super bull killer kind of guy, man. He's like been there, done that. He travels well and travels a lot. And so he's going to give us some tips on that kind of thing. And they're tips that you should probably heed somewhat because, except for maybe the freezer thing, that's kind of a little bit, to me, like, I'm probably not taking any freezers across the country. But then again, I haven't been gone for 4 months straight. So
that's it, man. That's it. If you're going to live extreme, you got to do extreme things.
I guess so.
And luckily, I guess you can say, I would say luckily, we don't do it quite that hard.
Yeah.
Right? And we kind of do things a little bit different. But Tony has got a lot of good tips for how you can actually do so many hunts and do them effectively, and I think that's kind of the difference maker.
Yeah. Well, the reason you listen to a guy like this is because, like, whether or not you want to be gone for 4 months or not, the guy has been gone for that, and so like he knows. So like whatever, like if your long trip is 2 weeks, then you still can like glean information from this man and like know that this guy has done it, been there, and like, that's what those guys are for. Not everybody like lives a lifestyle that LeBron James does.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
If you want to get faster, listen to Usain Bolt's probably a good idea. Yeah. You're not going to be as fast as him or run as many races or run as many gold medals, but he still has some good tips for how to be fast.
Yeah. Is there a way I can become 6'5" too?
Oh man, that would help. And defy physics with your starts, like that would be cool.
Yeah, let me just start real slow, but then go really fast.
Yeah.
No, that's like that. What's his name? Matthew Bowling. He's
my goodness,
new
man.
state record holder.
Yeah,
for
I think
100
youth forever holder, isn't he? Like under 18 record holder?
Is he really?
I think so.
Like in the nation, or I guess worldwide.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But he ran.
He's a phenom.
The one that everybody like went crazy about was like a sub 10. 100
99800 in
they
high
said
school.
it was like wind assisted, and I'm like, I don't care how much wind is blowing, I ain't running a 998. But yeah, it's crazy how like to me, and this is so off, but he's like so similar to like Usain Bolt, just in this kind of slower start, but then just like eating up ground in that last like 60, golly,
it's nuts,
unbelievable. But anyway, so back to hunting. We're going to get on the phone with Tony Trietch here pretty quick. Y'all wish me luck. And also, if you have been liking what we've been releasing on the whitetail side or in this new backcountry series, let us know. Give us a review. Send us a Facebook message, a website message, whatever. Let us know about it. And those backcountry series, it's been well received, the first episode. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. If you're at all interested in going out west and doing different kind of big game hunting. And it's there's a lot more really good guests coming up. So I hope you guys are enjoying that and will enjoy it in the future. So anyway, I guess it's about time to get Tony on the phone, huh?
Let's do it.
All right. So now on the podcast we have Tony Trietch. He's an outdoor rider. What's up, Tony?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a pretty beautiful day here, man. I mean, like when we get cloud cover, which we have been lately, it's pretty like comfortable weather here. But if we get some sunshine this time of year, it starts getting real warm here in Texas. What about you? What's your weather look like up there? You're in Michigan, right?
Yeah, it's probably jacket weather for you guys. For me, it's getting warm. It's like mid 60s, so that's starting to get warm.
Y'all
we
are
had snow on the ground a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
that sounds like a November cold front here. So
no kidding.
We probably live at opposite spectrums of the whitetail world there as far as temperatures go.
I guarantee you, dude. I can tell you right now, a little bit of wind and sub 50 temperatures, and I'm like frozen to the bone in the fall, man. I know that's like a normal day in the park for you guys in probably September, but yeah, it's a different story here. That's I kind of am jealous of you guys because of your ability to just sit out in a stand all day or whatever. It's just in the freezing cold. I feel like we get so. You were talking about this earlier, but like, we just eat jalapenos when it's 110 here and humid, and like it's no big deal, And so then when it gets cold at all, and we go up north, it's like we can't hardly stand it, dude. And so I think that like acclimating your body by living somewhere is definitely an advantage.
Oh, absolutely. There was a thread on Rockslide not long ago about like what's your biggest weakness, and mine's easy. It's the heat. man, I don't know how you guys do it in that super hot. I mean, it hits 85, 90, on one of my trips out west or whatever. And if I don't have shade, I'm useless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's the same for me when it's like under freezing, when we move up north. I'm just like, I can't be in that stand more than like 2.5 or 3 hours before I have to do something, and go warm up somewhere. So super jealous. That's where having good gear makes it, makes things better though.
Yep.
I will give you guys
absolutely.
credit, though. I have family in the Twin Cities area, Minnesota up there, and a little bit north. And I've been there in the summer, and it'd be pretty sweltering, too. So it's kind of like, I mean, not to give you too much credit over us or anything, but it's kind of like you get it pretty bad in the summer, and then you get it real bad in the winter up there. So, that humidity's pretty rough.
Yeah. Once it hits 85 and above, it's so humid up here that it is pretty. It's just so muggy. It's tough to deal with. But we also got lots of water, and lots of areas you can go for swims. So it's a cool area. I'm not.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And big hunting culture, which we have in Texas as well. Lots of hunters per acre. Depending on what part of the state you're in, I guess here, I mean, you could be in basically Mexico and there's not too many people around, but it's the price of hunting is a little different there. I guess maybe I'm just ignorant, but it seems like you kind of fly under the radar in hunting media a little bit. And for those of you that don't kind of know you, kind of give us an upper deck view of what your life looks like.
Well, I'm a carpenter, a home builder here in northern Michigan, and I kind of built my business, all the way from back in my early 20s when I started this, with the idea that I wanted to have the freedom to hunt, and basically, I'm a single guy, and so I wanted to be able to just do whatever the hell I wanted to do, and for me that was traveling around hunting, and it started by traveling the Midwest, and I'd leave for a month or so at a time and go to some friends that I know in Illinois and Ohio, and every few years when I draw a tag in Iowa, and then it developed to Kansas. I got invited to hunt with some friends there, and that's developed, and I'm still spending a lot of time there. And then eventually it just got to the point where I was spending 2 months away from home at a time, and just traveling around the Midwest hunting whitetails, and it grew into, well, I want to go try the mountains. I was a downhill ski racer and eventually coach for ski racing, and so I spent a lot of time in the mountains, but I'd never hunted in the mountains until probably 8 years ago. And I just dove in head first, and the first year killed a couple elk on my own. All my hunts are solo too. I don't, I think I've hunted with people maybe 3 times in the last 10 years. That even includes the Midwest.
Wow.
So I just kind of went head first, and now I'm spending. Last year I left home July 28th last year and didn't come home until almost November. And then I was home just long enough to process 2 elk that I'd shot, I think 5 bucks, and got them all in the freezer and left for Kansas.
That sounds like a several day job in itself.
Yeah, it's developed into, I've been asked to write for a bunch of different places, and I've accepted a few of them, and so I could do some gear testing, and it's nice to be able to do that. And I guess there's really no money in this. People that asked me about this as like a part-time job, I was like, well, you're not gonna pay your bills by hunting, and unless there's very, very few jobs in the industry, I think, that you can actually hunt as much as I do and make a living. I think most people in the hunting industry, probably don't get to hunt as much as someone who, like myself, has a job outside of it and focuses their free time back into the hunting. It's you have to be careful with that, but I wouldn't trade it. I mean, I've got a great lady at home that helps me take care of things at home while I'm gone, and great employees that cover me while I'm gone. So it's a pretty sweet deal. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome. So, you're kind of living the dream life for a lot of guys, and I think that there's definitely some value in what you might have to say about kind of setting up your life that way. Just any thoughts or tips or big mantras or overarching themes that might that you might have taken when you started setting up your lifestyle this way? You have any tips or thoughts for anybody there?
Well, yeah, the first thing I would say is if you want to do what I'm doing, I like I just mentioned, I would stay out of the hunting industry. I don't think that, you look at guys that are in it, and they don't get to spend that much time. You got to find a job or a career where eventually you're going to be your own boss. That was absolutely key for me. And then you'll be straightforward with everybody. I mean, when I'm working on someone's house, they know that, I'm not going to be there in the fall or late summer,
right, or
sometimes winter if it, draw a certain tag. And you got to have the right people around you to help you out. And also set, you don't want to, you got to cross all your T's and dot your I's. And that includes letting the people in your life that, like my girlfriend, right up front, like, hey, this is what I do. And, you can't have surprises there or you're going to ruin relationships. But
sure,
I would say being your own boss and surround yourself with people that understand your passion. That's probably.
So communication's very key there, I guess. And being open. Yeah. So, I mean, how are you able to, I guess, or how were you, say, like early on in your career when you were setting up this whole lifestyle, how are you able to find guys that you can trust? Like, first off, I guess there's maybe some kind of an investment type of theory here, but like you have to have some guys that can kind of help run your business in the meantime while you're gone. And being gone for an extended period, I guess the beauty of the digital world is you still have plenty of contact usually, but how does that all look, especially starting out? Like, at what point do you start to scale so that you can do more of what you want? And then what does that look like?
It definitely took a few years of just, I was probably working 7 days a week and building the business up before I ever left, and took any time away from the job sites. But finding guys that you can trust with your livelihood is it's probably one of the most important things. And it's not that easy. It's really hard right now because it's booming so much up here. Mm-hmm. But when I'm gone now, I still come out of the wherever I'm at. Even if I'm backpacked way in, I'll still come off the mountain and find Wi-Fi and do payroll remotely and do all the billing and invoicing and all the paperwork, so the guys don't have to worry about that. They just have to worry about keeping customers happy and production rolling. And so it's definitely evolved. Technology sure helps.
Yeah.
Don't have to go find a payphone now to do that, I don't guess. Huh?
No, I print out the check, or I literally write the checks and everything on my QuickBooks, on my laptop, and then just let the girlfriend know when she can print them off, and the guys take it from there. So it's I'm a pretty lucky guy. It's all worked out for the most part. Even though I will say that I don't really do well with ultimatums, but she kind of gave me one last year when I got back after being gone for almost 4 months, and it was a little long. That was probably pushing it for both of us, really, but for being gone. So, but I try to explain to her that you draw once in a lifetime tags every year, and you can't let them go. And she looks at me like, wait, if it's once in a lifetime, how can you have these tags every year?
Yeah.
Oh. No, yeah, that's crazy, man. And so I kind of have a similar story this year. I drew for me, what I'm assuming is a once in a lifetime tag down in New Mexico, and I'm also a carpenter. It's what I do for a living. I'm a little bit more small scale, though. I do a lot of remodeling. I build a few new homes here and there, but I've kind of modeled my life around the same way, and it's for me, it's kind of a constant battle of trying to, like, when I'm gone, I usually just kind of shut work down because I don't really have a crew or anything. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of like tough to get back and pick back up. So do you feel like as you progress as a hunter and just in life and in an age in the future, do you see yourself continuing on the way you do it, or would you kind of rather be able to just go and shut off the work side of your life and just hunt in the fall? Or do you like being able to kind of take that break from maybe the so-called grind of hunting and come back to the real world for a couple hours?
I would say that I'm already setting the company up to work, without me.
Yeah.
And even when I'm back now, I'm, writing articles more often, take a day off here and there. And as long as I have the right guys, it can function without me. So that's pretty key. And I was the ultimate micromanager when I started, in stepping on everybody's toes and always having to have my hands in every single thing we did. And that was one of the biggest struggles, was getting away from that and relaxing and letting the guys do their thing. And but again, you have to have the right people.
Yeah.
So
it
comes down to that.
And kind of the big thing that we're kind of surrounding right now with our conversation is just the idea of traveling to hunt, right? And that's what all of these, we're kind of solving the problems of that, and work is a huge thing for everybody, because it's just pretty much since Adam and Eve left the garden, we've had to work, right? It's just the way it goes.
Right.
So it's something we have to deal with to be able to pursue the things we love to do. And so how many days a year, you said you had an ultimatum from this past season, so I'm assuming it's going to drop just a little bit. But like, how many days a year are you looking at being gone from home?
There's probably going to be a minimum of altogether probably at least 2 months a year, even if I just draw the minimum, because no matter what, I'll be hunting deer somewhere in Colorado. Even if it's a second choice or a leftover tag, no matter what, I'll be hunting, elk at a bare minimum in Colorado or over the counter in Idaho. Mm-hmm. So even if I don't draw anything, so right there's a month and a half, it could be. Montana's pretty easy to draw tags. I'm almost always there. And if I ever get a break and don't draw anything for November, I've got all kinds of points to go back to some land in Iowa that I've spent a lot of time on in the past. So, I mean, you're probably looking at, minimum of 60 to 70 days with, in the high end. Last year, I drew in New Mexico late deer tag too. So I actually left for an additional hunt in January last year. I mean, I was gone 130 days last year, probably.
So, man, that's like a little over 1/3 of the year. That's awesome. But
yeah, I know that. Don't tell Jody. I'm sure she's already figured it out. But.
She did the math, I bet. Sooner or later.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I guess kind of my big question on that is, how often are you going back to like your home base and regrouping, and like what does that regrouping look like?
Not enough. That was what she said.
Yeah.
In hindsight, and someone that you guys have had on the podcast, Cody Rich, actually, like during my trip last year, so along my trip, I will literally not come back the entire time. And I take freezers with me on a little trailer and a bunch of Yeti coolers. And I literally drop those freezers off along the way. It's like, Cody, I just finished up my hunt in Colorado. I'm coming to Montana. He lets me put my freezers in his barn, and I, with all the meats, I literally just, I had 3 freezers with me, and I literally just keep adding meat to these things. It's I don't get home at all during that whole time. Like from July to November last year, I was literally either sleeping in a tent or occasionally underneath the truck or in the truck. I mean, I never got a hotel room once. It was just dude,
that's hardcore. That's awesome.
Well, in hindsight, I should have parked the truck a couple times, and even some friends recommended this. When I was at Cody's, he's like, you can leave the truck and trailer here, and I'll drive you to the airport, and you can just fly home for 3 or 4 days and to see Jody. And and I should have. It would have made it easier on her and I both in our relationship. And in the future, I will do that if I'm going to be gone that long. But there's the other side. I mean, it's like I still got tags in my pocket, and the season's open right now, and I get real focused on that to the point where it's a little bit tunnel vision, and which helps be successful, but it also is I gotta rein that tunnel vision in a little bit if you want to keep relationships at home. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
dude. How many freezers are you taking when you head out west?
Well, they're small. They're like the little 3-footers.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a little flatbed trailer. But I had 3 of those.
Okay.
Depends on tags. Like right now, I don't have. this will probably be a lighter year. I did draw an ibex tag in New Mexico.
Oh yeah, I saw that you did that. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. That's that's been one of my dream hunts for a long time. So
I'm surprised you drew that with the Sitka film that released last year. I figured everybody would be putting in for that.
Just 5 or 6 years ago, the odds for that archery hunt were really, really easy. And I think between a couple of social media guys putting out videos on it, it's gone down every single year.
Yeah. Dude, I had some friends that we were hunting with in 2011 and 12. Man, they were telling me, they were like, dude, the ibex hunt in New Mexico, you got to go do it. It's awesome. They're everywhere. It's one of the funnest hunts you can do. And of course, every time it came around to like fronting the money for that thing, I was just like, I don't think I can do it right now. I got to pay property taxes or whatever, so I never did. And I'm kind of bummed now that like all this exposure has happened, that it's a much tougher hunt to draw, I'm sure. So that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be something. I made the mistake of explaining it to Jody the other day, like how many rattlesnakes there are in that mountain.
Mountain lions.
Yeah, and how, basically, sometimes the goats get in spots where you need rappelling equipment to get them to retrieve them. I mean, it's
like you with Cassie on bear country.
Dude, my wife thinks I'm going to get eaten by a black bear like everywhere I go. It's like, look, I mean, it's possible, but these aren't like Manitoba bears. These are like, these are
overgrown raccoons.
Overgrown raccoons is what we got, down in the southern latitudes. But I don't know. It's just kind of funny. And that's really kind of an interesting aspect of the travel that we didn't really think about covering, is like more of the social side of it, just doing your best to explain to your significant other why you're not going to die on the trip that you're going on. Yeah. I bet that at least 1/3 of my conversation with her is like, it's going to be okay, and I don't know. Right. It's just kind of weird. But how do you, man, when we go, we travel to hunt a good bit, but we're in and out. We don't stay gone for a long time. But it's just like the vehicle becomes a war zone whenever we go anywhere. And I'm sure that, you sounds like you're a really organized guy, and you probably have got a good idea and probably have done the war zone thing in the vehicle. But how do you manage that whole side of things, especially being gone for as long as you are, with keeping things organized and only having a 6x15 area?
It's you got to stay on top of it. If you let it get, if you just start tossing things around in certain spots, it goes quick. And so I always make sure everything's got its own home now. I mean, when I'm packing the truck now, it's just like the front, the back seat, the back of the truck, underneath the topper, everything has its little place, and it's full. And those freezers are also full of stuff until meat goes in them. They're full of gear. And no, everything has its little place, and all the coolers in the back of the truck, dual purpose as far as gear storage until I need them. I mean, everything's mic'd out pretty tight, so that I know where everything's at. And you got to stay neat and tidy if you're gonna be gone that long and expect to find anything down the road. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt just getting the stuff, but whatever.
I hear you got a topper, and I'm looking at one of those to my vehicle soon. And Tyler has one, but I don't know. They're great because everything stays locked up and tidy and dry. But then also you got to climb in the back of the truck every time you got to get something out. So is there have you found a good way to organize like that specific bed area of the truck? Do you have like a platform in there or something?
Yep. Well, no, I've got basically coolers go on top or on the bottom, and then I got these. I think they're made by Plano. They're like a long plastic flip top like storage unit, and they have wheels on the back on one side. So basically, I can roll those in over top of the coolers. So everything's got its own little, there's one of those for clothes, and there's 3 of them for different sets of clothes, and then there's one for art hunting gear. There's one for camping gear. Everything's got its own little thing. There's one with just food. Actually, there's 2 of them with food. Everything's got to be somewhat mobile, but I mean, when you need to get something out of those coolers, there's just no way around it unless you're going to have and I try to keep, it's not a tall topper. I've destroyed trucks on trips. I've literally came back with, $7,000 in body damage, and I've had tire problems every single year. I don't know how many tires I've blown. I've had sticks shoved through the rim, or through between the rim and the tire that didn't leak air. I don't know how. I've seen that. I mean, I've had everything happen to the vehicles, and I try not to, I could probably have a bigger topper where I could have more room, but then it limits where you can go. I mean, I'm not really easy on my truck, and it gets beat up pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. If you're real sneaky, you can find a way to just take that out with your write-offs for work, but it's probably, well, we better not talk about that too much. But, no.
Right. Yeah, we better leave that one alone.
So you mentioned clothing in there, and I haven't really thought about this much because, like I said, we get to come home pretty often, but I mean, it's probably a logistical issue trying to figure out how to wash clothes every once in a while you're out on the road that long. Do you just do the laundromat thing?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. It's funny you ask that. There's going a lot of these places. I'm going to the same area every year, so you kind of learn where you can get away with doing it without running into. And this is the worst when you find like the lady who uses like the super fragrant tie, like just. This has got UV brighteners in it. This has got it smells like a perfume aisle at JCPenney. So I'll walk into a laundromat and I'm like walking from machine to machine smelling them. To figure out, okay, like this one doesn't smell like roses and petunias, and this one smells pretty basic. And then I've even went as far as to have to throw some laundry soap in it, run a cycle to get it clean. And I mean, not that the scent matters that much in the mountains, anyways, but I just don't want to smell like that crap.
Yeah, for sure.
It gives me headaches, man. Too strong a scent.
Truck stops will have wash machines and stuff. Those are usually pretty safe. But yeah, I become a connoisseur of truck stop showers and campgrounds, KOAs, places like that.
Yeah. What's the going rate for a shower at a truck stop?
$8, $10, something like that. So it's not bad.
It's not a daily thing.
It hasn't changed since I was taking them on the road.
And there's certain ones you want to avoid too that are pretty nasty. Don't forget your flip flops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was thinking, you carry as many freezers as you do. If you just wanted to load a wash machine on there, it would be like the perfect public lane concealment. People just think you're like an appliance salesman, but you're actually a hunter, and everything has a purpose. It's a great man.
There is a little bit of a disguise with my truck. I don't have any hunting stickers, anything on it that would identify me as a hunter. And I've even thought of I was just having this conversation last night at a dinner party with a bunch of my girlfriend's friends that aren't hunters. And I was explaining to them, I went as far as I haven't done it, but I've looked into getting a magnetic, sticker I can stick on the side of my truck that would indicate me being something that I'm not, like a big peace sign, something for the trailheads in Colorado, so your truck doesn't get messed with by the anti-hunters. Because I haven't had it happen personally, but I've been back to the trailhead and seen a stick shoved through a hunter's window because he had hunting stickers all over his car or his truck. And I mean, I've seen tires slashed. Colorado's got a lot of people that aren't necessarily down with the hunting. I've never seen it in any other state up in the mountains, but I've seen a lot there.
Yeah,
I've had people walk around me on a trail, way off to the distance when I was packing out a deer on my back, and they just didn't want to, didn't want to be anywhere around, something dead, I guess.
Yeah. That's a weird state, man. It's so strange how I don't know. The urban areas are so much different than the rural areas, when it comes to that kind of stuff. And Texas has a little bit of that too. But I don't know. I hadn't thought about that, about the concealment or disguise for that reason, at least. But when you start talking about magnetic stickers, I literally have worked on the design for a magnetic sticker for my vehicle to use, but not for that reason. Yeah. See, a lot of these states you go to, there's either oil leases or air power or whatever it might be, and there's trucks all the time running around with stickers on them. And I'm like, okay, could I just make a PDF logo that's not really anybody and put it on the side of my truck and it look like a work truck and people don't even think I'm a hunter? So I'm right there with you, man. Like there's a whole new level of camo out there. I mean, you might even be able to market this thing. Who knows? But
yeah, until you get the guy that owns all the oil well rights in an area, and he sees your vehicle in there, and he calls you in, and then your vehicle gets towed.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah,
this guy's infringing on my oil.
Yeah. Eminent domain, man. Come on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, spending as much time on the road, and you said you're at the truck stop a lot, taking a shower or whatever.
Yes.
Something that we end up doing way more than we should is just chowing down on fries and greasy burgers or whatever it is. Man, it's like I can overcome it now, and especially we kind of do the same kind of thing for work, so it's pretty easy to kind of lose down in the summer if you're working hard or whatever. But as we get older, it's going to be a whole lot harder to overcome the weight gain or just the sloppiness you get during the winter doing all that stuff. And I'm assuming that being on the road as much as you are, you really have to do something to avoid just grabbing snack junk foods and fast food or whatever. So how do you manage your food for that long of a trip without eating just Mountain House or fast food every day?
It is hard.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the mountain hunting, if I was just going to, hunt, like when I used to just hunt the Midwest, or even just Kansas, even though in Kansas I'm on my feet, I'm never hunting from a stand, so I am still walking. But it's different when you're on the mountain, you're burning off so many calories that I'm like, I can leave home at 180 pounds, and when I'll get right down to my college weight within 3 weeks, and I'll be like 172, 170, and I look like I'm 19 years old by the end of October, just because I've been running up and down mountains every day. And the hardest part for me has been controlling my appetite and what I eat when I get done with those hunts. When I come home in between the mountains and say Kansas, I mean, I'll gain 10 pounds just right back, in that 2 or 3 weeks, just because it's your body's so used to eating anything it can get its hands on because you're running at a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
You're burning more than you're eating. I've had trouble with it. It's been challenging to, I like to eat. I like to make good food, and it's, you gotta curb it. I'm definitely not, I haven't figured out how to say no to, the junk food on the road.
Yeah.
I need to get better at it for sure.
Dude, you eat enough jalapeno poppers and rub them in your eyes a bunch.
Right.
You lose lots of water weight when crying.
Oh man. Yeah.
No, that's kind of a big thing for me too. I usually end up elk hunting every September. Then you're up there for 8-9 days, calorie deficit. Even if you're truck camping, you're going calorie deficit. You're just running around everywhere, eating as much as you can, double servings a night, and then you leave the mountain and you're shredded, as skinny as I ever am. And it's funny. It's funny you said college weight a while ago too, because that's inverse for me. I got real chubby in college. But anyways, and then I don't know. By the time we drive back to Texas, I've eaten a giant burger as soon as I get off the mountain, and then eating out every time, and it's almost like by the 24 hours it takes to get home, I've gained it all back, and then right after that you turn around, and we were talking earlier how we just aren't acclimated to the cold, just from where we live. You start traveling to the Midwest, and man, there's something about eating a lot when you're cold. You get a chill and a good hot large amount of food. It's that's what it takes to warm up, right? And your body's telling you that because you need calories to generate heat. But at the same time, we're not designed to eat greasy, nasty fast food stuff for that. Humans, beans or gathering acorns or whatever, whatever it was that your body was designed to eat before all these fast food restaurants came up. But that's to compound the issue you're talking about is just that you jump straight off into a whitetail season where you're just being cold all the time and you just want to eat more. And I guess for you, you said you spend a lot of time on foot whitetail hunting as opposed to sitting in a tree stand. So I guess you're getting to burn some calories while you're still doing that, huh?
Yeah. I haven't, most of my whitetail hunting's been west of the Mississippi since, I bet 2012. And learning to hunt them on the ground was I mean, it's more fun. It's definitely, man, I could draw an Iowa tag whenever I want. Now I've got enough points, and I just have a hard time dedicating part of November to it when I can go to Montana and Kansas and, other states where I can hunt them on foot.
Right.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, dude. So kind of speak to that a little bit, man. What does it mean? Hunting them on foot? What does that look like?
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, so like the first time I went to Kansas, I was invited out there with some friends, and we met the rancher who was, we were going to be staying with. We pulled up this intersection where he wanted to, meet us at. And he's like, "Well, I brought you here because I want to show you. I've got this section and this section, and they don't talk acres down there; they talk sections." And I look across this, and there's nothing. There's not a bush. There's not a tree. I'm like, well, what the hell are we doing here? This is a waste of time. And then we drive to the next one. It's the same thing. The next one's got a couple of trees and a little creek bottom. Instantly, my eyes drawn right to that. These cottonwoods and some brush down there. I'm like, that's where all the deer are going to be. Mm-hmm. And it took us about 3 days before we realized the deer aren't in those little creek bottoms. They're using them maybe at night, but they're bedding out in the middle of those big open areas, just maybe where there's a depression that's maybe 4 or 5 foot deeper than everywhere around it, and the grass grew up, the weeds grew up maybe a foot taller, and they're laying out in the weirdest spots, and it's taken, it took a few years to kind of get it dialed in, but now it's I'm spotting, stalking whitetails in eastern Montana, and it's just a matter of finding an advantage point, or a vantage point up high, and that can mean an oil well, it can mean on top of someone's barn, standing on top of my truck with the tripod and the and the binoculars, finding them, watching them get bedding them somewhere, which most of the time it's in spots that people just you would never guess them to bed in, at least for the older, mature bucks, and then putting the stock on, getting in there tight. And I've decoyed them in too, called them in, rattled them in. It's just so much more exciting. I mean, I grew up, hunting whitetails in the Midwest. I killed my first ones when I was 12, the very first year I was legally allowed to hunt. And I was the guy spending, every free minute of November in a tree stand every single day, or whenever I could. And, we'd sit all day in November, and I've lived that life. I've done it all. And I'll be happy if I never sit in a tree stand again. I mean, I'm more efficient. I mean, I've killed a lot more and bigger bucks from the ground than I ever did in tree stands. I mean, I think it fits my kind of maybe aggressive personality as far as my hunting style, and I feel like I've figured out I'm doing something out in these areas too I don't see anybody else doing. Mm-hmm. And I know some people do, I just don't run into them. I've run into people on hunting tree stands. I've literally had guys like watching me making a stalk across what looks to them like a wide open just field. And I literally stopped and walked over to the truck because he's just sitting there on the side of the road watching me. I could see him picking up his binoculars. And I went and talked to him. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I just told him I was looking for deer, and he just looked at me like I was crazy. And he had permission to hunt that same piece of that same area. And it's it's private, but the guy lets everybody walk on it. And mm-hmm. They're looking at me like, you got two heads, and they can't wrap their head around it. These people have lived in that area their whole life, and there's a handful of spots with trees, and that's the only spots they hunt. Mm-hmm. And those deer absolutely have them figured out. I've literally sat up on my little glassing point in that particular spot and watched them walk all the way around that guy in his little ambush spot. Yeah. And
so I feel like if even on top of a truck, you don't have just a crazy good advantage sometimes. Cause
no,
I mean, I know you've seen you can look across some of these sections and it looks like flat and short grass, and then you don't realize, but there's a 4-foot drop in the middle with mm-hmm. a slight drainage and taller grass that grows there.
Yep.
I mean, how do you, without getting 30 feet up in a tree or something like that, yep. How do you know where that buck, you can watch a buck go across the section and then all of a sudden disappear. And like, how do you know that he didn't just slide off into one of those little depressions and continue going for another half mile, as opposed to like how often are you seeing these deer just bed? You know what I mean? Like watching them bed.
That's a great question. Yeah, you just got to take what you can get as far as those vantage points. I mean, and that's why I use some kind of, some pretty crazy stuff, going up on top of oil holding tanks or whatever. You just, whatever you can find. And then it's just, a lot of times it's a matter of, and this plays into maybe my aggressiveness a little bit, but if you're real cautious and you just don't want to, you want to make sure you got 100% bedded situation, bedded deer before you're going to be walking in, then you're probably going to miss a lot of opportunities. Because if I see a deer, just walk over a knoll, and I'm grabbing the bow and I'm getting to the next vantage point, and I'm going to watch them again. And this all works a whole lot better in November when they're rutting too, because they're going to be up all day. I've gotten opportunities at probably the biggest whitetail I've ever found in Kansas. I had an opportunity to find him for the simple reason that he had a little teeny 2-point that kept coming over and bugging his doe at him, and that big buck would jump up, run him off, run back to the doe and lay back down. And he did that maybe 5 or 6 times. Mm-hmm. And, so I'm crawling in my hands and knees, and basically when I kind of like, all right, I need to get my bearings, see how close I am to them, because, the weeds are 3 foot high, and when they bed and I couldn't see them. All I do is kneel up or sit up in a kneeling position. And sure enough, that little 2-point would come in again, and they're just, so you're looking at, you gotta, there's a lot of different ways to stay on top of them and keep them in your visual, but, the rut definitely helps. Yeah. And you get, being aggressive, and staying on them. But there's also times too where, if plan A doesn't work out, maybe you're moving to the next spot and it's well after daylight, or daylight, and they're already bedded down. That's when I'll do my calling, like late morning, mid to late morning works. Rattling works great in these areas where it's wide open. I think, and I have a kind of a theory on it, but I think that decoying and rattling works way better in these open areas because the deer, for the simple reason, can see each other and fight more often. You take a couple of mature bucks in Illinois or Iowa, river bottom type country. They're 500 yards away from each other. They're both just out of their mind with testosterone, middle of November, looking for does. They walk, parallel with each other in opposite directions. They never see each other. Mm-hmm. We take those same 2 deer in Kansas or in Nebraska or eastern Montana, where it's wide open. They're seeing each other. They're gonna go right after each other. They're gonna square off. They're gonna fight. You're gonna find more deer with broken antlers, and in those areas, calling and rattling, decoying works way better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we did the decoy thing on the ground some last year, and for one, we were in a very similar situation where you're talking about like with a satellite buck, pestering a lockdown buck or whatever. And in that scenario, in other scenarios, we've just been kind of timid with the decoy, I guess from lack of experience or just maybe lack of faith. But like, how often and how much faith do you have in the decoy? I know that's very broad, but like, is that kind of your go-to on that scenario?
It has now. Yeah. So I think it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I grabbed my decoy and I was back from my mountain trip, and I grabbed my whitetail decoy. Well, I grabbed the wrong legs. So I had that like the Montana decoy, and I had the long legs for my elk decoy. Mm-hmm. And I got these like 4 foot tall legs on the whitetail doe decoy, and I set it up, and I felt like such a fool. Even though it probably in hindsight probably would have worked just fine, just a little bit better, visual for the deer from a long ways away. But so I took a picture of it thinking I was funny and put it on social media. And within like a half hour, the owner of Heads Up Decoy, Garrett Rowe, got a hold of me, and he's like, I want to set you up with some real decoys. And I literally met him, and a great guy too, and fantastic product. We literally got, the adapter mounted in between my bow and my stabilizer. He showed me how to use it. He told me what to expect. And it was like trial by fire. I had one of those situations where my plan A buck, which is probably 175-inch whitetail with kickers, he's a beautiful buck. He got blown out by a coyote. I literally found him that morning, and he was gone. So it's like, all right, now it's an hour and a half past daylight. I'm going to go to one of my rattling spots and calling spots, and I'm going to give her a shot. So I boogie over to that spot, and I didn't even get a chance to rattle before I looked down on this big swale, and there's just a buck standing, along this little brushy, dry creek bed. And, even without the binoculars, I could tell he was mature. But, I pulled up the binoculars, didn't have really time to get the scope on him, but it's like, he's just a wall at times on both sides. And he's just looking kind of off to the side. And eventually he walks down to that creek bottom and disappears. So to me, he's like, okay, he's either right there embedded, or he's walking the creek parallel, or walking parallel with the creek away from me there. Because otherwise, if he was coming this way, I'd see him. And if he crossed, I would see him. So he's one of those two things. So I grabbed the decoy and my rattling antlers and just busted my butt down there. It's probably, it was over a quarter mile, probably half mile. Well, halfway down to him, I'm walking across a cut wheat field. I've got zero cover. And I look up on top of the hill, kind of across where he was from, and there's a 140-inch buck just just a big old bodied buck, but nothing I'd want to shoot at that point. And he's just staring at me and staring down that creek bottom. And he literally never left. He watched me walk all the way across that field. I got all the way over to where the wind was kind of quartering across from where I saw that big buck go down the creek bottom. I'm like, all right, he's either right here or he's, beyond. And, just about that time I look up, and way beyond kind of where that dry creek bed goes, I look up there and I see a big buck walking away. And he's already up on my side of the creek, and he's up on the high ground. So I grab the rattling antlers, I throw the decoy in front of the bow, and I just smash them together. And that buck turns right around. He's probably 400 or 500 yards away. And he's just staring at me. And he's big. Like that buck's probably 160 inches. And he's just staring. He's just staring at me, like, not moving. And I turn over my right shoulder, and that big 140-inch buck, just giant-bodied mature buck, is standing up there. He's a couple hundred yards away, and he's just staring at me, and they won't move. And they're just like statues. And I'm just, I'd flash that decoy at him. You can see him just like perk right up. And it was a buck decoy too. Garrett's has a doe and a buck, but he told me for whitetails, the buck decoy works way better. And so I'd flash that decoy, I'd rattle, and I'm tucked in in a fence corner with all kinds of tumbleweeds and stuff. So they can't see me. I've got a perfect little spot to hide, but they won't move. And probably 10 minutes into this, for some reason, I just thought maybe I should look over my left shoulder. I didn't hear anything. I just got this like sixth sense. And I turn around, and the original buck that I saw, he was coming up out of the creek bottom. He had never moved. Basically, when I lost sight of him, he had probably laid down right there. Here he comes out of the creek, head down like a bull moose, just head swaying back and forth. And he's already within range. He's 60 yards away, and he's not even looking at me anymore. He saw that decoy when I flashed it to the other bucks, and he's coming up to kick somebody's ass. And I just swiveled around 180 degrees, and he walked right into 20 yards. And if I hadn't seen him, I would have never heard him. He's walking across a cut wheat field, made his noise. He probably would have just taken that bow and that decoy right out of my hand. His ears were laid back. His eyes were rolled back in his head. I could have done anything. I could have just stood up and shot him. He was not looking at all. Man. And Garrett had told me, he's like, just let them keep coming, but be prepared for a frontal, because they're going to just come right at you. And it was. I put an arrow in front of one shoulder, and it blew out his opposite rear hip. And that was it. But those other two bucks, they knew he was there. I bet they had fought that night, and that's why they weren't coming back.
Yeah.
It was, and he was 185 inches.
Oh my goodness,
gosh, dude!
Man, that's nuts.
What kind of properties are you hunting? This is so like you're hunting some private stuff. It sounds like. There's got to be an art to getting that permission, huh?
Some of it is, some of it's not.
Yeah.
Those same ranchers and people, landowners, they give anybody permission. It's not, none of it's sole permission.
Yeah.
So and I found the same thing in Montana. There's a lot more public land there where I've hunted, but the private land there, you run into occasional one where an outfitter's got it leased up, and the people will say no, but old fashioned knocking on doors still works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, you've got my heart pumping after that story. Just it's a long way till November, but I'm excited about that stuff, man. But it's just cool. It's just cool to see that interaction and think about that interaction, and I don't know, you get so much more value out of learning, what whitetails do in certain scenarios, and I think that's, for me, the biggest thing I learned this past season. Well, maybe not the biggest thing, but just I don't know the right way to phrase this, but I learned so much more in so much less time being out of the stand on the ground, because you're up in the mix, and it's a big difference in the way you do things and what you do. And a while ago you talked about being prepared to take a frontal, and that's kind of something I worked on a little bit last year with arrow weights and stuff, and I'm probably going to continue to kind of try to perfect that system because I'm not happy with how my last year's arrow build went. But I actually noticed on social media here a while back that you were running 2-weight arrows in one season. Can you tell kind of the logic behind that and when you use what?
Well, I've got 2 different bows too, so those are two different bows.
Okay.
I like a heavier arrow, but I don't want, I'm not gonna. It's kind of there's a lot to this question. So first off, I love performance, right? I want the most devastating arrow I can have. I could shoot a 60-pound bow, but I'm going to shoot a 70-pound or an 80-pound bow. I want as heavy an arrow as I can get and still keep it around 285 to 275 feet per second. I don't want to go above that, and I don't really want to go below that. So, like this year, I've got 2 bows. I got a Hoyt Helix Ultra, which is a very forgiving aluminum riser bow. In order to keep it at 280, I'm shooting a 450 grain arrow. I want that 280 because I don't want to go above that, because I shoot all fixed blades right now, and I get way better, easier to tune, easier to have long range grouping and have that thing flying out of there like a laser beam when I keep it around that 280. The other bow is the Hoyt RX3 Turbo. Now that one, I've got a 527 grain arrow going almost the same speed. It's like at 278, and that thing is just, and I typically hunt with the turbos just for that reason. I mean, I don't need the extra speed. I use that more as power. So I'm using a heavier arrow, keeping the speed down. And when you use that heavier arrow, they're way quieter too. A deer, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys how twitchy whitetails can be.
Oh, yeah.
When you get a loud bow and you're close, man, that's a recipe for, I mean, I'm not a video guy. I don't video my hunts. But I know I've had deer drop their entire body cavity in height at 25 yards, and I missed them completely. Like, I don't even know how they can react that fast. But the quieter your bow, the less that I think they're really you take a lot of that jumpiness out of them. But yeah, no, I'm all about keeping that arrow speed right in that 280 range. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually have that scenario on video from a couple years back. I shot at a buck on Texas Public, and they're just jumpy as all get out. Whitetail are jumpy in general, and then you take the smaller bodied public land deer.
Agile.
Oh my goodness, dude! They come out of their skin. It's crazy.
Yeah, little ninjas.
Oh yeah, it's nuts. But I don't know, and that's kind of where I've kind of went the other way. I feel like a lot of dudes try to go like, oh, I got to get faster. Well, you're not going to really outrun sound, So I've tried to beef up the weight a little bit, and then also just kind of striving for. I really want pass-throughs, and I know you're not always going to get them, but I just feel like 2 holes are better than 1 on a deer.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of been my goal and stuff, and I still got to work on that stuff a little bit. But do you run that that heavier arrow whenever you're on the ground with whitetails, or are you doing that lighter setup for that?
Well, both of those bows are going to be plenty for any deer or even elk for that matter. So it's, I run an iron wheel broadhead on the front. So those things are so sharp and they're built so well. I mean, even hitting bones, either bow, even shooting a 450 grain arrow at 280 feet per second or 282, whatever it is. I mean, way more than enough for any critter that I've ever chased. I mean, I shot a bull moose with my once in a lifetime Idaho tag 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago, I guess it'd be, and it was a longer shot. I mean, he was 70 yards, and I had a clean pass through, and that was only I want to say a 470 grain arrow. I mean, it wasn't.
Wow.
So there's a lot of talk with the super heavy arrows and super heavy FOC, and I mean both my rigs. I usually try to keep them up around 15 to 18%, maybe 19%. But it's the important thing is that you got a sharp broadhead that's tuned, it's flying straight, and you're getting good arrow flight. And I mean that's the most important thing. I think there are lots of guys out there killing everything with super light arrows. Yeah. So it goes both ways as long as your equipment's tuned right and you got a solid broadhead on the front, you're dialed.
Yeah, I got you. Have you? I saw that Iron Will's coming out with a solid 100. Have you messed with those any?
Yeah, I got to check them out. I don't have any yet, but they're basically just a little bit shorter profile, and
still. Are they still inch and an eighth?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the width is the same. I think it's just the total overall length is a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
I forget. I don't know. I don't remember offhand if it's a different thickness or not. But I got to play with one, and it's the same way. You got to be careful when you're handling them because they are just late. I mean, yeah, it seems like every year I'll forget and I'll just grab one and like, oh crap, grab a Band-Aid.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever had a broadhead that is. I mean, and I've destroyed some. I'm shooting through animals up in the rocks in the mountains, and I've when you pinwheel a boulder square, bad things are going to happen to any broadhead.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I've also zipped them right through elk and even that moose, and it was. I mean, you can still shave hair off your arm, so it's.
That's cool. That's cool, man.
No, yeah, I like them.
Yeah. A while ago you were talking about Montana some, and I feel like Montana's kind of got some pub recently with some of the bigger guys going out there, but it's always early season. And it sounded like to me that you were talking about more Montana rut time of year and later. Do you do the early season thing out there, or do you go kind of that later time of year?
Nope. I've done both.
Yeah.
But my better bucks out there were actually during the rut, and I was chasing them with a bow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. No, it was during rifle season, so you got to wear orange.
Yeah.
But I've done both. It just kind of depends on where I've drew some, the general elk tag and deer combo several times out there, and I found myself in spots where you maybe you tag out on your elk and you're like, well, I mean, this looks like whitetail habitat. Not many people, and not many. I shouldn't say not many people, but I feel like as soon as you get past Iowa, even like in Nebraska, like people look at their deer a little differently, and not everybody out west values the whitetail like they do their mule deer.
Oh yeah.
And there's some spots you can knock on doors out there, and they're like, "You want to shoot the whitetails? Go for it. Don't be shooting don't be shooting my mule deer."
Yeah,
and
I think we were in Bozeman last summer, and there's whitetail everywhere. It's kind of like I did not expect that. You'd see whitetail like at noon, just out in fields or whatever, and people were like calling them prairie rats and stuff. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm slobbering over these bucks." It's so weird.
Yeah.
No, Wyoming's got the same thing going on, and in Idaho, there's some great. In Washington, I haven't been up to Washington, but I've had a couple invites, and they're killing. There's some interesting spots you can go kill whitetails right now, and it's kind of it's a little bit different game in every spot, but it's the opportunities are out there. The guy does his research.
Is that Montana rut hunt like similar dates to like Midwestern rut dates?
Well, yeah, they have their general season. The archery runs from, I think it's like the first Saturday in September through the middle of October. Then there's a couple days they give them a break, and then the general firearm starts, and you can still hunt that with a bow. You just got to wear your orange, and that runs. I don't remember when it closes. I want to say it runs most of November.
Yeah,
but it runs pretty late.
But I mean, the actual like peak rut is it similar to
rut?
Midwest?
Yeah. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been anywhere that. I guess I haven't hunted way down south, but yeah, up anywhere in the Midwest and where I've hunted in the West is anytime in that first 3 weeks of November, your money.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So earlier you mentioned like that you pretty much always hunt solo. Is there a reason? Do you like that, or what's the reason there?
Well, there's probably a few. One, with my schedule, I don't have anybody that I know that can be gone as long as I can. But I'm more effective by myself for the most part. I'm sure there's situations where having a partner would work great. If you were putting a stock stand, a buck across a giant, basin, it's a couple miles long, and you have someone giving you hand signals or whatever to let you know he's still there, or come on back, you're wasting your time. Right. That kind of thing would be valuable. But I just find that when I don't have to answer to anybody, I make decisions faster and things die quicker. I mean, I ended up, with more filled tags that way. And there's some other parts of it too that don't even really have to do with hunting. They have to do with kind of that relationship stuff we talked about before. But the guys that I used to go to Kansas with, that invited me, we went there for different reasons. They were not as serious as I am about my hunting or about hunting in general. And they were just looking at it as a vacation to get away from their wives and their kids. And, if we kill a deer, great. But, they want to stay up partying, and they want to, they want to meet for lunch every day and have a couple beers. And, so I'm going to bed early. I'm getting up early, and then I'm hunting all day long. And, the next thing I know, I'm the bad guy that doesn't want to be a team player, or, we're just there for different reasons. Right. So you have to find someone that you hunt with that has the exact same, the reason. The reason has to be for the same. If you're out spending that much time with somebody that's wants something different out of it than you are, and you can mess up a relationship and lose a friend. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've came real close to doing. And that's just, I've got lots of buddies that hunt that we wouldn't hunt well together.
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah,
and
man.
My friends tell me I'm just an asshole too, so that could be one of the reasons that I hunt.
Well, we've talked to you for an hour, and I don't believe that at all. So, I try to be a pretty good judge of character, so that's not what it is. I promise, man. But you hunt a lot, and you've killed a lot of stuff, and honestly, you haven't probably you seem like a pretty humble guy, and you haven't really led on to as many big animals as you've killed in this interview. But through all that and through all these years, are your goals kind of shifting, or do you still kind of have the same goals when you go out each season?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really set goals for like what I want to kill. It's one of those things that when I see a buck that I want to kill, I know it. And I got great advice from someone a long time ago. He said, the second you see a critter, if you put your glass on it, you get your eyes on it. If you don't know instantly that's, oh my God, need to make this happen. That is it. That's the one. If there's any hesitation, it's not the one. As soon as there's any doubt at all, you need to step back and probably let that animal walk. It can bite you sometimes. It has, and eventually I've circled around 180 degrees, but no, that is the one. But a couple times, and this was quite a while ago, but I had that doubt, and I still went ahead and executed the plan. And next thing you know, you're standing over a buck, and you're like, "Damn it, he's not what I thought he was." And I don't ever want to have that feeling again. Yeah, that's a horrible. I felt like not only I'm disrespecting the critter because I'm like disappointed with him, but I feel like I let myself down, and it's like you put all this time and effort into it. Basically, the only thing I care about is that I don't feel that. I want something when I kill him that it's like, this thing's amazing. This thing's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I found a super wide, 30-inch wide 3x3, big bladed tines. He doesn't score with a damn because he doesn't have any forks in the back. But he's beautiful. I got video of him while I was waiting for him to lay down, and I mean it was an awesome hunt. But does he score with anything? I actually passed up a 4x4 the day before. They probably pushed 180, but he was kind of thin and younger, and so it's not about the score. It's just, you show me an old gnarly buck with thick faces and burrs and, some dual, or split brow tines or something. And I'm just, I'm getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to be the right one.
Yeah,
There's
dude.
definitely no inches, that make it happen.
Yeah, dude. That's how I am, man. Same way. That's awesome. So, Tony, this has been a great interview, man. I appreciate you hopping on the phone with us and doing this, and just kind of, for a guy that did it for 130 days last year, I mean, you're going to have a lot of experience and tips and tricks and thoughts and everything that a lot of guys don't quite get to develop because they may not get to spend as much time in the woods. So definitely, we're blessed to have you on the line with us today, and I appreciate it. And I just would like to give you a chance here to just send people to your Instagram or wherever you want them to go, just to find out a little more about you, or if they're interested in getting some more of your experience in a firsthand basis, man. How do they connect with you?
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you having me on. And, anytime you guys want to do it, just holler.
Sure.
But I write for Rock Slide, so I do gear reviews for them, and get to test out a lot of great equipment. And I also freelance write. You can find my articles in probably, a lot of different magazines. But my Instagram account is just my name, and it's just Tony Trietch, and there's only one of me, and there's like three Treaches left in the whole world, I think. So which the girlfriend's pushing to have a kid so we can change that, and I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to hunt anymore. So that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Those kids will definitely take up some of your hunting time, but they're fun, man. They are fun.
Yeah. Well, I've set the bar at a pretty high point at this point. A couple years we've been together, I was gone for, 100 plus days both years we've been together, and she hasn't left yet. So as long as she still lets me keep some resemblance of that, I might give this a go. So.
Well, that's cool, man. So good luck with that. We'll link to all these to some of your articles and Instagram and everything. So if the listener is interested, you can follow Tony there in the show notes below. Tony, appreciate it, man. And I look forward to following you later this summer as you start working into that Western stuff, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
All right. We'll see you.
Thanks, Tony.
Dude, is there any way you could ever leave for like 120 days straight and not be divorced?
No, there's no way. However,
you got to be single pretty much, I think.
Pre-marital life.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Dude.
I look back a lot of times thinking about how I used to think I did like fun things whenever I was single and stuff, but my like horizons were still pretty small. And maybe it's the world of information we live in now. There's just so much, even compared to 5 years ago, there's so much more information out there, what you can go do and things you can see that I just think it would be different now. I don't know. But, just like, man, I could have went and done some cool stuff back whenever.
Well, just even like the ability to like work remotely a little bit,
Yeah.
like that. It's changed in 5 years. Not that there wasn't that ability, but in 5 years, 10 years, it's changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I remember you used to see those commercials on TV. They were like, work from home. And you're like, yeah, right. You can't work from home. And now it's like 50% of the working population works from home, right? Yeah. I don't know.
I'm about to be working from the road.
Ooh.
On this vacation.
It's a good thing?
It's a good thing. I mean,
cool.
I would rather be sitting in the mountains editing a wedding or a podcast or something like that than I would sitting in my home right here with a wall unit while it's 105 degrees outside.
Yeah,
so
that's a good plan.
That wall unit doesn't work well when it's that hot.
Nothing does. No, so
just the sun. The sun works well. That's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the deal there. I will be, let's see, a lot of people will be listening to this early in the next week probably, and if that's the case, I might be in the Gila at that time.
Ooh, fancy.
I know, dude. I'm pretty excited. We're going out there. We're going to spend some time.
Do you know about like specific locations you're going to stay?
I know what the current campground we're staying in. 2 nights. I can't remember what it's called. We've got it written down somewhere. We booked it already, I guess, but it's on the Gila River. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I don't know if we did. Kaylee did it, but it's on the Gila River. So like we're going to be sitting there
sweet
fishing out the back door. Yeah. So pretty excited about that. And then I'll get to kind of see what it looks like,
I bet it's going to remind you of that Black River trip we took. That's going to probably look like that same kind of country. I bet it'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm excited, man, to go do that.
You should be.
And hopefully I'll be able to like send you some pictures and videos just so you can kind of see what it looks like.
Cool.
And
strap that 600 on the Canon and take some pics.
I'm going to try.
There's going to be some velvety heads running around.
I heard
out there.
that it's hard to see elk out there sometimes if you're not like out in it. So
I could see that.
You know what I mean? If you're like just trailheading it and campgrounding it, I've heard that it's pretty difficult to see them sometimes.
They don't like people very much.
They don't, do they? They're
kind of the cool thing about them.
Yeah, that's why they live in the mountains now.
I think so.
Because they got tired of seeing.
It wouldn't be on the
settlers.
western plains if it wasn't that case.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited to do that. There was something else I was gonna mention here, and I can't remember what it.
What's
what
the
it was.
highest elevation y'all are going to sleep at on this trip?
I don't know, because the back half of our trip comes through the Rockies, and we don't have it planned.
That's the cool thing to have happen.
Yeah.
Not have a plan on Rockies. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
My wife likes to have a little bit of a plan, which I'm okay with too, because like I want to make sure we both get something out of vacation we want. So on our we're only going for 9 days, but we're going to go stay one night in, the first time for this, Airbnb, just a room in someone's house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But they got a lot of good reviews. They're like an older couple, and they have like this ranch outside Durango, so it should be kind of cool. And then we're going to go camp and backpack and do everything. And then we're going to wrap up our trip near Leadville. And Leadville's the highest elevation town in the United States.
Right? Yeah.
And the place we're staying is in the mountains above Leadville. I think we're going to sleep at 12,008 feet. That's like real high.
There's a good chance you might see some altitude sickness.
You might. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe not you, but
Well, Cassie's been up before. Like whenever we stayed at Mirror Lake last year, we stayed at, I think, like 11,100 or something like that. So it shouldn't be.
Y'all camp there?
Yes,
cool.
we did. Yeah,
cool. That's really high, man.
Yeah,
I've never camped that high.
It was the tree line was like right there.
Yeah.
It was like you could see, it's just right above you.
It's nuts, dude.
We like sat there all day at Mirror Lake and fished and hung out and just did the thing, and looked at this mountain face for a long time. Never saw any animals, and all of a sudden, 30 minutes before dark, mule deer just pop up out of nowhere, and it's like, y'all been doing that all day, just sitting there. Can't nobody see you, and there you are. It's pretty
crazy.
Cool.
So, are y'all going to be like catching cutthroats up there, or what are y'all doing?
Would like to. Yeah. That's like the tallest mountains in Colorado. Like I guess it's Princeton and Elbert, I think, are right in there, and then Mount Harvard, Mount Yale, a lot of those. I guess there's something to do with the Ivy League schools. They named those mountains in that range with Ivy League school names, which is strange.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's a lot of brook trout up there, which is kind of like you know, you catch them in the Smokies, it's really awesome. But you go to the Rockies and I don't know. I was talking to Jess earlier about that, actually. A future guest on the podcast.
Hey, be looking
tune in for that. And just it's kind of like there's always like it's a cool fish, but there's always like this little bit of But if you start thinking about it, 95% of the fish you catch in the West are going to be that way, unless it's a native cutthroat in its native range. So I will be trying. Yeah, I know, that's for sure. I'm going to eat some brook trout. Rock check them hard. But I'm going to try to knock out the other two cutthroat on this trip for Colorado. I think I can.
That's the Rio?
The Rio and the greenback. Yeah. And it's not
Are you going to go to like the newer greenback population that's been discovered, or are you going to just like what they've been doing since the 70s kind of thing?
What they've been doing since the 70s. I think that one's kind of tough to get to, and it doesn't fit into our schedule great.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to catch greenbacks in greenback drainage. It's going to be the old Arkansas cutthroat that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Greenback's going to be a greenback for me on this trip.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to like just get the species,
They're
and then
so
I'll
pretty.
worry about where they're at.
They're the prettiest fish that I've caught,
Really?
man. Yeah. I mean, as far as like trout go, I think.
I don't know. I know there's dogging on brook trout a while ago, but those Smoky Mountain brook trout, those things are pretty hard to beat.
They're pretty awesome.
Also, the rainbows in the Smokies are pretty hard to beat, too.
Man.
They're like
why is
super
that?
hard par markings. I don't know. I don't understand it.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyways, looking forward to vacations, dude. It's going to be fun.
Me too, man.
Y'all are going to have a blast on your trip.
Yeah, I think so. Coming back through, we're not going to try to spend too much time in bear country.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Big bear country, not necessarily black bear country. But yeah, so that's what's coming up, man. And I'm excited. Once we get back, man, it's pretty much, just gung ho, nose down to the grindstone on whitetails and elk, man. And
I'm excited.
I'm excited about it. So we're still, while I'm on vacation, we're still going to be putting out podcasts and releasing some videos. I'm going to do, Casey and I both are going to do a lot of day-to-day stuff. Probably won't see Casey's till July because we won't get to see each other till then. But
or August even, because it's going to be, we get back mid-July, so, who knows.
So I'll be trying to post here and there, and just day by day. I'm going to try to kind of keep a budget going, so we can show people hey, this is really even with a family of 4, you can do this really pretty cheaply and have a ball, doing it. So
for sure.
Anyway, lots of cool stuff on the horizon. I hope you like this podcast. If you do, don't forget to give us a review. Be checking out the Backcountry podcasts that are going to be releasing on Tuesdays, if we can make that happen, which depending on phone or Wi-Fi and that kind of thing, phone service, whatever it might be, that could be kind of tough on these trips. But it will release every week, one episode. We will make it happen. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.